Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Smart Trucking Live. How's everyone doing? A few people have joined us already. Josh Peterbilt, 389. Glad to see you here, Josh. Igor Malman from down in Brazil, hauling logs out of the jungle down in Brazil. I think that'd be a pretty cool job. Glad to see you here, Igor. Softest Kills here. Joey Kozar. Hey, Joey. Timothy Platt says it's a beautiful day in Oregon. Kind of nice. It's not too bad a day here either, all things told. Brian Walt, how are you doing? My screen just went crazy here. Well, I've got some technical problems. Chris Keller, how he's down in Bakersfield, California. There's an area I know fairly well. How are you doing? Can you do something with that, Kathy? So we got some interesting stuff going on in the trucking industry. Well, trucking's a never-ending changing business. So there's always stuff going on. So got some interesting things that I've tripped across through the week and a half or so, or the week since we spoke last. And one of the biggest things that I found interesting, thank you, there we go, was what Amazon is proposing and what Amazon is up to. So we'll talk about that in a minute here. Vince is on the road in New Mexico. Thank you for joining us, Vince. Bill Burnside, he's in Baton Rouge. Nice down there. Everybody's in warmer weather than I am. Oh, Minnesota Vikes, hello. Well, maybe it's not that much warmer in Minnesota, so. Cass Johnson, Martin Shelley, big fan from Nebraska. Love Nebraska, by the way. One of my favorite states to truck in. Glad you could join us, Martin. Danny Henry, good afternoon, Danny. Abe Penner, hauling logs up in the Fort McMurray, Alberta area. Now I've been up there. I hauled fuel up that direction, but that can be rough country in the wintertime. Pretty country though. Mean Machine is here from Jamaica. Amazing. Golden Deer Transportation, thank you, sir. Nomadic Brit from down in South Carolina. Andrew Mitchell in Saskatchewan. Martin Shelley says he likes the background. Yeah, that's Kathy and Nick's work. But yeah, I kind of like it myself. Jeff C. in Kansas City, Missouri. Donald's angry. Just starting up in Springfield, Ohio. David S. is in South Dakota. Southern Ontario. Amelpreet's in Southern Ontario and it's cold. Yeah, it's just kind of like that here now. It's February in Canada. What can we say? Ursel Blevins, Walton, Kentucky. Used to stop there on my way down to Florida all the time. Chris Keller, what are your thoughts on PACCAR going all digital dash? And we'll get into that real quick here before we start. But I finally saw pictures of the new digital dash. I don't like it. I don't like it. I like the old style gauges. Anyway, as I was saying, Amazon, the Amazon, what goes after their name? But the people that ship their stuff all over, you can buy it over the internet. So Amazon has had their issues with trucking over the years. And they haven't been around a big long time, but in their brief history of shipping, they've fired at different times both UPS and FedEx because of delivery failures or getting there later. It's problems with them anyway. So Amazon has continued to grow and grow and grow, and especially through this pandemic, they've gotten huge because everyone just had to stay at home. So they've been online shopping, and they've been doing a ton of it. As Amazon has grown. So I read in Freightways Online the other day an article concerning Amazon and how they propose to handle their new transportation issues. So here's a quote. Amazon intends to launch a program to recruit hundreds of people to start their own trucking companies and haul goods exclusively for Amazon. Now, right away, that should set off alarm bells. It certainly set off alarm bells with me. So here's Amazon looking for a whole bunch of new guys in trucking that really don't know anything about trucking, and Amazon wants to help them make truckers out of them just so they can go work exclusively for Amazon. But it's interesting that Amazon isn't doing it the way that everybody else has always done it. Like, look at Walmart. Walmart's got a ton of stuff to move all the time. They have their own fleet. And pretty much everybody that has a ton of stuff of their own to move has their own fleet of trucks. They don't want to contract out because, there are service failures and stuff like that. So they want to have more control over the quality delivery of their freight, so they have their own fleets. But Amazon doesn't want to go that route. Amazon wants to, and their expression is they want to incubate a fleet. And it's fascinating because what they want to do is take a bunch of new guys, control their training, and provide, here's another quote, provide business training and loans for entrepreneurs to start their own trucking companies. So what they're saying is they'll take all these new guys, help them get trucks, help them get operating authority and insurance, and they'll sign a contract so they work exclusively for Amazon. And that just, if I was a new guy looking to get into trucking, that might sound pretty tempting to me. But as a guy that's been around this industry for over 40 years, I can tell you right now, I wouldn't touch that deal with a 10-foot pole, and I'd be running the other way. Because what it adds up to is these new entrepreneurs take all the risk, and they'll spend all the money setting themselves up, and Amazon just gets the benefit, nothing else. There's no downside for Amazon. Amazon gets their freight moved. They can get rid of you basically whenever they want if you're not performing. And in the meantime, you've laid out all this money for a truck and insurance and plates and operating authority and stuff like that. And Amazon can just cut you off at the knees anytime they want. If, you have a service failure, you break down, whatever the problem is. So, and it might be all right for established fleets to go in there. But that's what they've been doing already. They have established fleets pulling their freight. But Amazon wants to take it a step further. Amazon wants to have more control over the trucks that haul their freight, and you can see why. But they don't want any of the risk involved in that. They're not prepared to take any of the risk. So I thought there's a whole new idea on how to set yourself up, have no risk, have the drivers take all the risk. And I don't know. I haven't looked. I know there are guys pulling Amazon freight now, and I don't know if they're getting it off load boards or whether they're with small carriers and stuff like that. And you see Amazon trailers going up and down the highway. I don't know. I've never looked at the rates on that stuff. But Amazon is known for wanting to get their stuff fairly cheap, fairly reasonable. And generally something like that it always runs downhill. So the guy at the bottom of the hill is making the sacrifices. So my guess is, and there are probably exceptions, but my guess is that in most instances, the Amazon freight doesn't pay particularly well. There's just a whole lot of it. So what they can say is, well, we can bounce you from here to here to here to here and here and keep you moving. And there's an advantage to be able to keep moving when you own a truck. But if you're just running back and forth for $1 a mile and not making any money, you're just wearing out the truck, you're wearing out yourself, and at the end of the day, you're going to have a worn out truck, you're going to be tired, no money in the bank. So it's great to move all the time, but you've got to be making money. So you want to have a really close look at what the freight actually pays and calculate that out. It might be, I could be wrong. I say I've never looked at their rates, but I'd sure want to have a careful look at how that whole thing worked. And I certainly wouldn't want to be indebted to Amazon. I certainly wouldn't want to sign a contract saying I would haul exclusively for Amazon unless there were some benefits to the truck. Like, what's the advantage? I'd want it to be a two-way street, but it rarely is. And you wouldn't, if you have your own authority and your own plates and your own insurance, you should be able to haul for whoever you want. Now, it's great to be contracted to a company that can keep you busy, but there's no saying you'll make money. You've got to be able to make money. And there's no saying that they can't cut you off at the knees anytime they want. And that's why I'd be leery of that scenario. I just don't trust these huge corporations. Amazon has their own load board and their freight rates suck from my understanding. Chris Keller. Chris, that without even having seen them, that would have been my guess. So I'm sure you're absolutely right about that. That'd be my guess. Now, for some guys that might be all right. If you've got an older truck that's paid for and you just want to bounce around between a couple of states, Amazon can keep you busy. You don't have big bills. You don't have big payments. It might be all right for guys like that. But for a guy to go out and get a truck specifically to work for Amazon, man, never in a million years would I do that. Big Dre says cheap rates. I'm sure I can believe that all day long. I can completely agree that would be the case. CNZ Trucking says, last I saw, a company had to have a minimum of 3 trucks to sign up to haul freight for Amazon. So it's a package deal. It's a group deal. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole myself. There are a ton of guys that'll jump all over that, but I'd stay away from that deal. But, it's the way things are going. It's the way things are going in trucking. It's going exactly the way I don't want it to go. It's taking money away from the drivers. The truck drivers are making less and less and less. The companies and the carriers are making more and more and more. The insurance companies are getting rich. The fuel companies are getting rich. Everyone's in the money anymore except the truck drivers. And I have an issue with that. Considering none of it will run without the truck drivers. The truck drivers should be way higher up the tier pole than what they are, not at the bottom. But here's Amazon now setting up hundreds of drivers to be at the bottom of the list for making money. I just wouldn't enter into the deal in the first place. So made me mad, and just looking at it and reading the details, I thought, there's something just waiting to go wrong that will cost hundreds or maybe thousands of guys to go broke, learning that Amazon isn't their friend and isn't their business partner. Amazon is just using them for whatever they can get out of them. And I don't like to see that, but that's the way of the world anymore. Yeah, Anthony Simpson says Amazon is a red flag. They are to me. They are to me. Nomadic Brit says I didn't make proper money at Schneider Bulk until I got the truck paid off. That's even would be true of the Amazon deal. If you had a truck that was paid for, that changes the scenario completely. But that's not what Amazon's looking for. They're looking for new guys to help them finance a truck, teach them how to do the trucking business in a quickie course, and just throw them into the pool. And that should scare the hell out of anybody. RX7 Man says, yeah, you got to see the fine print, and that's absolutely right. Not just the rates, what happens in the slow season, good point. Are you going to be able to pay your expenses in the slow season? Well, exactly right. Exactly right. And if you're under contract not to take any other work, yeah, he nails it exactly. That's exactly right. There's too many downsides for the brand new owner-operator. And under this AB5 law, if they're in California, if they're contracted strictly to Amazon, then they're going to be an employee by the looks of it. So, there's another big mess you're into over there. So you're not really an owner-operator when you work exclusively for someone and they control the purse strings. So you're just, that's a slow death, is what that is. Augustin, greetings from Argentina. Glad you could join us, Augustin. Dante Williams, greetings from California, Oakland, California. Man, I got lost in the projects in Oakland one time. I won't ever forget that experience. Yeah, Paul Hudson says $3 a gallon for diesel. Now, see, diesel's marching on the way up. It's been increasing steadily for the last few months, and we had a lull there. You've kind of got to expect that after the pandemic is winding down, the fuel is going to go up. The more trucks start to move, of course, the fuel's going to go up to match that. Yeah, David S. says it sounds like a bad deal for the owner-operator, Amazon. That's my guess. I wouldn't go near it. Kelly Patterson, I forgot to say hi to you. Glad you could join us, Kelly. I think I saw you were on your way to Oregon someplace, so good for some time off. I'm sure you've earned it. John Yoakum says, I'm a new driver and I wouldn't do that with Amazon. I'd like to get my own truck, but not that way. Exactly right, John. Good thinking. You can read the writing on the wall. It's a sad state of affairs that in trucking anymore, you've pretty much got to figure out where they're going to get you and protect yourself from that, because that seems to be the nature of the business in trucking these days is to take advantage of the truck driver. So you've really got to, that's why I'm always preaching at you to be careful who you work for. You want to work for carriers that want to work with you, not take you to the cleaners. But the majority of them out there want to take you to the cleaners. So that's Amazon's new plan anyway, in a nutshell. And I just thought, well, and they plan to have this up and running by the second quarter. So, by springtime, they plan to have this division at work and running. So I can't imagine bringing in a new guy, helping him lease a truck, teaching him how to run a business in a couple of weeks, and then throwing him into the mess and saying, good luck. And then, when something goes wrong, the truck breaks or something 8 months down the road, and all of a sudden he's out of business because he can't afford the repair or whatever they're going to do to him. Or, has to have a nap and they penalize him financially for it. So dirty business. So I'd avoid the Amazon deal anyway. That's what I wanted to say about that. Something else I wanted to talk about today is I see that TFI has bought UPS's over-the-road LTL freight division. And they paid a lot of money for it. It's a pretty big operation. And I thought, A, why would UPS want to sell that? And B, why would TFI want to buy that? So it turns out UPS has sold it because they've had it for a number of years, ever since they bought overnight trucking. They've had that division, and they had always planned to get into the over-the-road parcel business to compete with guys like FedEx, for instance, that do that. But when they bought overnight and when they started that division, it was already unionized. And through the whole time period that UPS has owned that division, it's been unionized. And UPS finally decided that because it was unionized, because they had to pay their drivers more than the competition, they couldn't compete in this segment of the market because the guys, the carriers with non-union drivers like Este and Salia and Old Dominion and stuff could operate more effectively because they could operate more cheaply because they weren't paying union wages. So UPS has given up trying to make money with that division, and they've sold it to TFI. So why would TFI be interested in this? And what TFI does is buy up big trucking companies all over the place that look like they're in financial trouble, and turn them around. And the guy that owns it is Alan Bedard, I believe his name is. He's very, very bright, very sharp businessman. And I thought, why would he be interested in that? And when they quote him on this acquisition, he says that he will honor the Teamsters contract, but he doesn't say that he'll honor it until it expires. So the trick now here is to be, well, when will that expire? Because Bedard hasn't spent hundreds of millions on this company that doesn't show a profit just to keep on going that way. He's bought them to turn it around and make money. So as soon as that union contract expires, he'll be looking to get rid of those Teamster drivers, which I think is a sad state of affairs, because good paying trucking jobs have been sliding for years now. But, and you can say a lot of negative things about the Teamsters, but their drivers made pretty serious money. So now here's a group of thousands of guys in this division now that TFI will be working hard to weed out. And there's thousands of driving jobs that have been good, well-paying jobs that are now going to disappear. And I think that's sad. I'm not a big Teamster guy. I was a Teamster for a couple of years. I didn't like their system. I got out because there were too many things I didn't like about it. But make no mistake, those guys that were dedicated to that union and had some years in, those guys were making money. And that's kind of the object of the game. So you can say what you like about it, but they were making money, bottom line, really good money. And now here's that thousands of guys, they're going to be out, that kind of money. And I think that's sad to see. I don't like to see that. Excuse me there. I'm fighting a throat infection or something here. I got to medicate myself. That's all that is. Yeah, another company scam to get rid of the union, to create a new shell company and sell union division to that shell company. JP said that. This is just another way to weed out union drivers, which is, a way to save money. I don't think that it's fair that the trucking industry these days survives on the back of underpaid drivers. That is my biggest beef with the industry these days. And it's just becoming more and more common. And now here you see this huge example of a whole division with Teamsters in it being bought out. And that's where they're headed now, because they need to be competitive. They need to compete in their market. And that means non-union drivers. That means drivers that will work for less. And I hate to see that. It should be going the other direction. The cost of living is going up. The drivers should be making more money, not working for carriers that are determined that they make less money. It's a sad statement for trucking. I don't like to see that. There are so many good carriers out there. It's a shame though that you've got these carriers that focus only on their bottom line. Focus only on their bottom line and not their people. Tanya says she's been watching lots of our videos to learn about the industry. It's a hugely complex industry. So we're happy to put out these videos. We enjoy putting out these videos because we want people to understand this industry. And the more you understand about trucking, the better off you'll be and the more money you'll make at it. And that's kind of what you're into it for. You're here to make money, but there are a million pitfalls and you've got to learn where they are. Yeah, Scott Kuhn says UPS spent over $1 billion for overnight when they bought it, and they sold it for $800 million. So they took a loss just to get rid of that division, that overnight division, or freight division. So they took a hit just to get rid of it. Something else interesting too about that was that UPS division had ordered $25 million worth of Tesla trucks for that division. And now that division has been sold and it's gone. It'd be interesting to see if that order to Tesla gets canceled, because that whole division has disappeared. And that's the division they bought the trucks for. So that'll hurt Tesla. And Tesla's already hurting. I don't know if you've heard, because they're having trouble finding batteries, battery manufacturers that will make the truck do what they advertise that the truck will do. They can't find a battery manufacturer that can make a battery that can last long enough to make the truck perform and do the distance they need. It's supposed to have a 500-mile range. Apparently, it doesn't really. And they've been trying to find a better battery. They haven't found a better battery. And as of today's date, they're actually 2 years behind their promised delivery date for their new Tesla trucks. 2 years behind. And I guess it's the batteries that are holding them up. Captain Nice Guy says, wonder why TFI didn't buy Celadon. Well, yeah, he's a pretty sharp boy, this guy, and I guess he just didn't see any financial future in an acquisition of Celadon. And Celadon, primarily they hauled automotive freight, I believe. So I guess, TFI looked at that and decided there wasn't going to be any money in automotive freight anyway, because there was so much competition, and decided to take a pass on it. That'd be my guess on that anyway. Good question, though. Roger Pensky says, we have to face the reality that truck driving is truly a moderate to low-skilled job. Therefore, general wage level will seek what other moderate low-skilled jobs pay. And that's true, Roger, but look at the time devoted, and look at the liability. And those are things that, they may categorize this as a moderate to low-skilled job, but it takes twice the amount of hours out of your week every week than a factory job, and the liability is huge. And the skill set, there's no doubt that there's a skill set to it, because you can't pilot one of these things down through the mountains in the snow without a certain skill set. So, I know that that's how they like to class truck driving, as moderate to low skill, and I say truly that it isn't, and that people that classify it that way really don't fully appreciate or understand what truck drivers go through in a week. But yeah, I know that's how they like to class that, but I don't agree with that classification. And I'm sure you as a truck driver also knows there's a whole lot more to it than that. But sometimes I wonder if they don't like to try to classify us down because they can convince us to take lower wages. I don't know. It could be a game, but I just know what's involved in getting a truck from point A to point B in all sorts of weather and stuff like that. Your average fool can't do it, so I think you should pay accordingly. Yeah, Roger says here now, there will always be better paying jobs for better drivers in trucking. And that's my goal this year, $60K and home every day. Good goal. And that's right. That there will always be better paying jobs for more skilled, dedicated drivers. Those are the ones you're seeking out. Yeah, Giant Squid says people think it's just getting in the truck and driving, and it's way more than that. It's way more than that. That's just scratching the surface. Doesn't come close to what's really involved, and we all know that here. You guys know that. Yeah, 500 mile. Yeah, back to Tesla here quickly. C&Z Trucking says 500-mile range on what terrain? Oklahoma or Colorado mountains. They're having issues, and that's right too. You know that the Colorado mountains are sucking the batteries down quicker than running in the flat ground. So they've got some hurdles yet. I think electric trucks will be the way of the future, but I don't think we're close to it yet. So we will see. What else is going on that I didn't care for? Yeah, something else I wanted to mention today. Through the pandemic, for some reason, drug cartels have decided to increase or up the volume of drugs that they're shipping, and of course, their chosen method of transportation is the trucks. And there have been rashes of drug seizures this year involving tractor trailers. And they're even having instances where guys within the U.S. or Canada are picking up sealed trailers from shippers, and then they'll get to customs or someplace or an inspection site. They'll crack the seal and find drugs in the trailer. So I'm just cautioning everybody, if you're doing that, if you're picking up a preloaded trailer that's sealed, have a good look at the seal number, make sure it matches the paperwork. But even in that instance, it doesn't necessarily mean that there might not be drugs in the trailer. So there's a liability that we take on for moderate to low wages, and that's a real deal. There was a reefer trailer they caught north of Dallas here last week or the week before, and they ripped off the aluminum duct floor of the trailer, and it was just lined with packs or packets of cocaine and methamphetamine. And so that was, that's like a major construction project, to rip the floor out of a trailer, line it all with drugs, and reseal the whole floor, put freight in it, and then send it off to work, knowing, eventually that's where the trailer will end up so they can take it apart and get the drugs out. But think of the intricacy involved in doing all that and the planning and stuff. And these poor truck drivers are just pinned onto a load of yams or whatever the heck they think it is. And they don't even know what they're hauling. They had no way of knowing what they were hauling in many cases. It just turned out that all of a sudden they got a trailer full of drugs. They're on the side of the road trying to explain what the hell they're doing. So be aware that drug shipments in tractor trailers are up exponentially this year for some reason, and be as cautious as you possibly can be. Check your trailers yourself if they allow you to get in there and have a look at everything, but be aware that this is a scenario now that drivers are encountering. And we did a video a while back on the liability of a truck driver, and that's a huge liability. It's becoming more and more common every day, and not just with freight coming out of Mexico. It's freight coming out of Canada or wherever. It's out of anywhere. So you've got to be aware that this is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. Keep your eyes open and maybe have a lawyer on speed dial. And that's why you hope you're hauling for a carrier that has reputable customers that safeguard the trailers that they preload, lock them up in loaded yards so they can't be tampered with. They can't be yanked away, stripped out, reloaded with drugs, stuck back in the yard or something like that. You've got to have, a whole thing, a good customer base and everything. So there's a value, another value of working for a good carrier, not just some fly-by-night operation. But serious stuff. Shannon, I noticed you were here earlier. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. I noticed you were talking about the weather out in Wyoming. Man, it seems like it's been a brutal winter out in the Midwest anyway, but thanks for the heads up on that. I remember seeing ads for Amazon to help set up local locations using van trucks to make deliveries like a franchise. Yeah, I just and maybe maybe with van trucks and you're just delivering around town, it would have to be a whole separate deal. But still, would you want to invest in a truck trailer or not a trailer, a truck and insurance and plates and all that stuff for just strictly for Amazon and hope it all worked out? That just worries me. Yeah, and on the other point too, Shannon says caught a driver in Nebraska about 4 years ago with enough morphome to kill 250,000 people. Good Lord, that's awful. And I'm sure the driver had no idea what was in the box, that he was hauling something with that kind of potential. That's pretty upsetting stuff. Yeah, Thunderstorm 87 says, and the driver can get years in prison for not even knowing. How are you supposed to know if there's something hidden in the compartment? Yeah, that's I always felt better hauling the same trailer all the time. That increased my comfort level on stuff like that. But when you're just dropping and hooking, there's a risk involved there that wasn't a risk 20 years ago, but it certainly is now. So as I was saying, I was feeling I wasn't feeling sorry for the Teamsters, because they kind of bake their own goose. But it is sad to see thousands of guys now, and they're going to go home in a few months and say to their wives, "Well, I was getting 65 cents a mile, but now I'm going to be getting 45 cents a mile, and we're going to have to adjust our way of living because all of a sudden we're not making nearly what we did before." That's got to be rough, and you've got kids in college and bills to pay and stuff like that. That's just got to hurt. Don't like to see that kind of stuff happening. Captain Nice Guy. I don't mean like a guy hauling whiskey across the border and a bottle hitting him in the head. That's from one of my stories. I'm talking about someone who generally doesn't know, and I am too. That's Captain Nice Guy. There are in many cases, these guys have no idea what's in the trailer. They've got a manifest, they've got bills of lading, but there's something a little extra in there, and that's what you got to watch out for. And it's happening more and more often. James, thank you for the donation. Mega carriers don't care about their drivers, and small companies can't compete with the prices to haul decent freight. Yeah, that's true. That's true. They don't care. Pardon me? No, I don't know what you mean. Mega carriers don't care about their drivers. And I did say this already. Mega carriers don't care about their drivers, and small companies can't compete with the prices to haul decent freight. And sometimes that's true. He's right. That is a factor. And it's a sad deal, but yes, that does happen sometimes. And Bradley Weber. Wow, Bradley. Thank you. Appreciate the donation. Thank you, sir. But yeah, it is tough. James is right. It is tough for the small guys sometimes to compete with the mega carriers, and the only way they can get them is to offer better service. And usually that's fairly easy, because often the mega carriers have terrible service. So sometimes you can still compete. Huh, there's a good question. Thunderstorm 87. Will Teslas or autonomous trucks be able to pull fuel tankers or hazmat loads? Someday I'm sure they will be. How smart that is? Probably not very, but I'm sure they'll be able to do it at some point. Joe Smo says they'd be better to invest in their pension money in a casino. Be more fun investing in a casino. Here's Jack Decker. I work for Dr. Pepper. I make $70,000 a year, home every night and weekends, holidays, and good benefits. That's a good deal. Jack's got the kind of deal that everybody should have. Those jobs are out there if you dig and work hard. But you got to get away from those cheap mega carriers. Chris Keller says he makes decent money pulling end dump around local. Yeah, some of those guys do really well too. It's by the hour work sometimes, or even by the load sometimes. But some of those guys make pretty decent money. Roberto says he went with Swift, but he's trying his best not to be the stereotype. Well, Roberto, I'm sure you went there for a reason. Put in your time, be careful, and keep your eye open for something better. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, though. Did I get a chance to check out the American Truck Simulator yet there, Dave? That's from Jeremy. We got it in the box here. We haven't gotten it out of the box yet and put it all together. I offered to help Nick do it the other day, and Nick says I'd be no help at all. So, and I'm sure he's right. So I haven't yet, but we'll get to it, and I'm looking forward to it. See if I can actually drive one. Liability aspect is far too overlooked. Politicians and law enforcement might not be held accountable. Truck drivers always held responsible. Abe Penner. Abe's nailed it. That's exactly right. And you've got to look after yourself in this industry because no one is doing it for you. And carriers will promise you sometimes that, oh, you're good to go, it's safe or something like that. But at the end of the day, the truck driver always is the guy holding the bag. So the idea is not to be holding a bag full of crap. You've got to be very careful in this industry because everybody will just pass the buck when something goes wrong. And the driver's at the end of the receiving line. So you got to be careful. And he's right. Nobody else will take responsibility. It's always the truck driver that ends up being responsible at the end of the day. And that's why, you get a dispatcher, for instance, that'll say, oh, I know you're out hours, but you're only 15 minutes away. Can you just run it? Can you just run it? Can you just run it? And you want to help out, and it seems like the practical thing to do, and you get hit by a car, and all of a sudden you're out of hours, and they don't care if it's the car's fault. You were out of hours, and you get in trouble. And that's not fair. It's not right, but that's the way the system's set up. So you've always got to have that in the back of your mind. As dumb as it is to shut down on a ramp somewhere for 10 hours, you've got to be aware of the possibilities that could get you in trouble. So I don't agree with the system. It's just the system we have to work with. Yep. Abe says, blame the dirt. Yeah, that's right. Blame the dirty truck driver. I see that now, yeah. Have I seen, here's Giant Squid 222. Have I seen the new Pete that was unveiled February 3rd? Yes. The new 579. And it's kind of interesting what they did do it. I forget whether they said they're getting 4 or 7% better fuel mileage out of it. But basically, they took the whole truck and pulled it forward and dropped it down to make it more aerodynamic, and then put a new grille on it. And I do think it's better looking than the old 579. It's a little more sleek. It's a little lower, a little longer, a little cooler. So I don't think I still like the 680 better, the look of the 680. But Pete's getting there on the drop nose trucks. But yeah, I have seen that. So interesting. It's all about fuel mileage anymore, I guess. They're supposed to be quite nice inside. I've seen pictures. I think it's the 579 now that has a ladder up into the second bunk, which is kind of cool. Everybody else before this has just been pole vaulting up there, or climbing off the first bed onto the second one. I would think, I haven't been in one, but I would think it would be nice to have a little ladder to help you up anyway. Or they step on the shelves of the TV shelf or something. Yes, I see the chat here about SoCal Sandman. I do hope he's having a good recovery there. He's in for surgery. For those of you that don't know, and
that's what it says in the chat.
And we're wishing him the best. Chris Keller says it looks kind of like a Cascadia, meaning the new 579 looks like a Cascadia, and it's up 7%. Is what the figure was. So thanks for that, Chris. I couldn't remember it was 4 or 7, but they are all getting to kind of look the same though. And that's one of the problems I have with them. I was looking at old pictures that I had taken at the truck show at Mid-America a number of years ago, and Peterbilt had done for Walmart a custom truck. And it was really aerodynamic. There was only one guy sitting right up in the nose in the front. I don't know if you guys have seen pictures of that truck ever, but they built it for Walmart, for the Walmart fleet. And that thing is the coolest looking aerodynamic truck that I have seen to date, frankly. But I don't see it out in production anywhere. And I guess it was probably an electric truck too, so maybe that's why we haven't seen it. But I thought that was a slippery looking thing. I like the look at that. Speaking of Peterbilt, what's in your background? One of your old rigs? Oh, I wish that was Captain Nice Guy. I wish that was one of my old trucks. That was a truck, one of the first passport transport trucks out of Florida. I took this picture at the Walcott Truck Show. And I couldn't even tell you what year that was. But Passport were the original fine car haulers. That's an enclosed car trailer back behind that thing. And isn't that a beautiful truck? But those guys were out of Florida. They literally started the enclosed car transport industry, and that was their lead truck. And what a beautiful truck that is. Beautiful truck. We've got Friday's video coming up, though, now that you mentioned what's my background and Pete's, is that Friday's video is a video about me comparing Kenworth to Peterbilts. And I've had more than a few of both, owned more than a few of both of those trucks. And then I sat down and tried to go through which one I think was the better truck after I compared all the facts and figures and things I liked and things I didn't like about them. So tune in for Friday's video. I think you'll enjoy that. But we're talking about whether the Kenworth or the Pete was the better truck. And we did a poll on that, couple of polls. So tune in for the results of the polls as well. Daniel Meredith says, drivers for Swift Knight, Prime, and other mega carriers. Every driver who drives for them needs to stop driving for a couple of weeks until they pay their drivers like they should. I can't argue with that, Daniel. I can't argue with that. I agree. I don't think that guys should work for cheap. And now, some of these mega carriers are upping their mileage rates. They're behind where they should be, but at least they're improving their mileage rates. But they're still paying nothing for sitting in the dock. You give them 2 hours waiting time for free. Why is anyone giving 2 hours of their workday away for free? That's not right. So I'd like to see the mega carriers do something about that. They should be paid for every hour at the dock. And if you're going to have them reset on the road and guard the truck at the same time, they should be paid resets on the road. And if you don't want to pay them resets on the road, bring them home. Don't leave them stuck in some truck stop halfway across the country for no money for 34 hours. Don't agree with that either. Chris talking about the truck in the background there. It looks like a 351. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, but a modified one. They've stretched the hood and a few other things. But beautiful, beautiful truck it was. I wish it was my truck. No, it's not, Kerry. I wish it had been, but no, I never had a truck that nice. I don't see it. Oh, there it is. There. Captain Nice Guy, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. It's good of you. Thank you. I know this is off topic, but I'd like your opinion. I know literally next to nothing about trucks from a mechanical standpoint. I want to drive because I love to drive. Is there room for me in the industry these days? God, absolutely there is, Captain Nice Guy, because they don't let truck drivers do anything to trucks, like work on them mechanically at all anymore. In fact, they insist you don't touch them because half of them are leased, half of them are under warranty and stuff like that. You don't need to know and understand the mechanics of how the truck works. In fact, they prefer if you don't. They don't want you messing with them anymore, which is, I can see that. I always enjoyed tinkering, but no, you'll be fine. They just want you to drive them correctly. And yep, that's all you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about any of the mechanical issues. It's up to them to take care of that stuff. If the truck starts acting up these days, all they do is plug it into the computer, and the computer's supposed to tell them what's wrong with it. They don't even need your input. You just have to say, hey, something's wrong. I can feel it. Good enough. We'll plug it in and find out what's going on. So yeah, absolutely. There's room for guys like you in this industry. If you like to drive, that's all you really need to be qualified for. If you enjoyed driving, this would be a good job for you. I always enjoyed the driving. That was like number one thing for me. Hey, Wolf Train Services is here. Good to see you, sir. Trucker Hershey's here. I hadn't seen that. Whipbone. Tony Reeves. Whipbone says he'll be here Friday if he's not out cutting logs for firewood. It is that time of year. I got lazy, Whipbone. I don't do that myself anymore. I just buy cords of it now. I don't cut any of my own anymore. What do you prefer for a glider kit? C15 550 or C16? Either one. Either engine to be fine with me. It's sad that you can't get a glider kit anymore, I don't think. But either one of those engines would be a great engine to stick in it. Lucas says, thanks for recommending GP Transco. Lucas, our pleasure. We think they're good guys over there. We think they're a good, honest carrier. I'm glad you were able to get on with them. Thoughts about the Detroit 12.7 pre-emissions with a 13-speed 370s. Good setup. The 12.7 Detroit's a good, reliable motor. So's the 13-speed, well matched with the 370s. Good all-around combination with them. Good setup. Why do men want to buy Classic Pete's? Because if you're paying $180,000 for the truck, I think you should at least like the look of it. And you're going to be living in the thing to pay for it. So it's important, I think, to at least like it. Not get out of it in the morning, turn around, look at it and go, ugh, is that ever ugly? You want to have a truck you can be proud of. So that's why. How come you never talk about J.R. Schugel? Because I don't know anything about J.R. Schugel. I've seen them around. I don't know, other than that, anything about them. I don't know. I want to say they were out of Ohio or the Midwest somewhere, but I know nothing about them. I know nothing about them. Are they not owned by a bigger Midwest carrier now? Something's ringing a bell in the back of my head for that. But no, honestly, I don't know anything about them. Which is probably a good thing for them, because if they were a rotten carrier, I would heard all about them. So it probably means they're a good carrier, or I'd be bitching about them. 3406E pre-99 pre-log for a glider. Chris Keller, yeah, yep. Why is UPS the best paying trucker job? Well, because they've been unionized is one of the biggest reasons. Because their drivers are Teamsters, and Teamsters make good money. That's why. And we were talking about UPS earlier, and they still have their van division, their delivery division, and stuff like that. And those guys they'll still all be Teamsters. It's just this division that TFI has bought that's in trouble. Sounds like I quit driving. What am I doing now? I'm just kind of retired. Fighting with my damn throat here. That's what I'm doing. George Wilson, how about the auto cars from the 60s and 70s? They were beautiful trucks. They were kind of rough back in the day because they were an older truck. I drove one for, who the hell was that? Trimac for a little while, and it was kind of a rough old girl, but it was kind of neat. Certainly had a hood on it anyway. I can't remember the last time I saw one of those now. No, Louis, the union is still in at UPS. It's just this division that UPS sold that now I see them trying to get rid of the Teamsters in that division, but UPS doesn't own that anymore. UPS is still all unionized, but this division they've sold to TFI, I can see them trying to break the union in that division. Here's good news. Chris Keller says the CB is still alive. He talks Skip regularly. That's good to hear, man. CB radios were one of our biggest forms of entertainment back in the day. J.R. Schugel is out of Minnesota. They have a terminal in Ohio. Okay. They bought Super Service out of Michigan. Joe Schmo. Okay, thanks, Joe. Appreciate that. Yeah, I don't, I've seen them around. I really don't know anything about them, but they must be all right, or I'd have heard everybody complaining about them, so that's a good sign. I saw they have like a W900A show truck. I believe it was them that I saw, a really pretty white W900A that the owner's son or the owner had, that he liked to show every once in a while. Have I ever driven off-highway trucks? Yes, I have. In fact, the last job that I had here hauling lumber, most of that was off-highway work, and I don't mind that at all. But because the roads aren't designed for trucks necessarily, where you go, it could be some pretty challenging work, and it could be pretty easy to get stuck. But yeah, I have done that, and I enjoyed that all right. It was kind of nice to get off the highway and cut through the woods. But different type of trucking altogether. You could go for miles looking for a place to turn around. You had to be careful.
Okay, well, stay on topic, and if you're done,
So, anyway, those guys at that UPS division, they have my prayers. I hope I hope what I'm predicting doesn't come to be, but this guy Bedard that bought them, he'll be turning that into a profitable machine. You can guarantee that. That's what he does. So I'm worried about the Teamster wages over there. You know, I could be wrong, but I don't think so. He wants to compete, so those guys have my prayers over there. As far as the Amazon fleet's concerned, I would run the other direction from that, just so everybody's clear on that. That's my take on that. If they want good, dedicated freight movement, let them pay for it. God knows they can afford it. God knows Amazon, probably above all, except for maybe Walmart and a few others, can afford to do it the right way. So don't go with this cheapo system that they're coming out with here to figure out how to save money and not cost them any money, cost you money. They can afford to do it the right way. Let them do it the right way and make some money off them, not the other way around. Grilled Mortal, I saw you there earlier. I'm glad you're here. I forgot to get back to you, but how are you doing? Kelly Patterson, semi-retired. Yes, I guess I kind of am semi-retired. My truck's parked for the winter, but I'll be getting it out again in the spring. But I don't work it anymore. I just kind of joyride with it. So that's the best part of it. But yeah, I'll be getting it out in the spring and putting it back on the road. I don't like to run it up here this time of year because the salt just eats the heck out of them. And my truck spent most of its life in California with me there, so it's not as badly chewed up from the salt as it could be for its age. So I'm trying to keep it that way. Anyway, I guess I'll start to wrap it up here. I wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. I'd like to remind everyone, please, to watch our upcoming video Friday on the Kenworths and the Peets. I'd like to remind everybody that we're still selling our stories, so check the link down below for that. There's about 4 or 5 hours worth of stories there from my trucking past and some of my friends, and I think you'll enjoy them. We had a good time recording them all anyway, so I think you'll enjoy. Everyone, stay safe. The winter's getting rough out there, especially in the Midwest. So be careful. Don't let yourself be forced out on the roads. It's your call when you're feeling safe to go. And if you don't feel good about it, find a safe place to park. Don't get pushed or bullied by dispatch into a situation that's going to find you jackknifed and hurt out there, like so many guys already have been this year. So be careful. Stay safe. Keep the rubber side down. And we'll see you on the back haul. Have a good night, everybody.